Constitution explicitly granted the power over taxes, and tariffs are a tax to the Congress. The Congress never gave that to the president. The president just tried to take it. The Supreme Court today reminded him that, in fact, we have a people's house. Amazing. That really changes, I think, how you understand this. The president is screaming and yelling, oh, I can't do this. The court made a bad decision, blah, blah, blah. No, the only thing the Supreme Court said today, tariffs are not unconstitutional, just you have to go through Congress. So if the president has a good case to make, all he's got to do is convince a Republican Congress. That's it. So there's no damage being done by the court. And to be clear here, to the extent that anything's being undone, it's because the Republican Congress refuses to go along with the president here. Bessent went on and on how this is bad for the American people. Here's a funny thing, though. The thing about Trump's tariffs is if they worked, the theory of the case, here's not mine, was you would make it more profitable to do business in America than abroad, and that would bring jobs into the United States. Well, how come then, when the Supreme Court said, no, you can't tariff, you can't do that, it actually led the value of American stocks to rise? That's markets directly telling all of us that they believe the value of American business, and we haven't even talked about workers yet, they believe the value of American businesses goes up when the president's not allowed to indulge his tariff agenda. That's markets saying the theory of the case was always wrong. That's markets celebrating, saying this is good for America that the president no longer has this unilateral power.
When we looked at the data earlier on Friday, too, the day started where I thought if we were going to have Professor Wolfers on, we were going to talk about the GDP being half of what was projected, or the PCE, which examines inflation around consumer behavior, that the fact that that came in hotter than expected, that we were going to talk about that metric. Or I thought perhaps we would talk about the fact that in December, the trade deficit was like the highest it's been in a really long period of time. And that despite Donald Trump saying he's reduced the trade deficits by 78%, I don't know if he confused 78% with an increase in the deficit of like 78.1 billion, but it's just a lie. As you say, lying liars lie. The data that's been coming out this week, even before this Supreme Court ruling, was not what the Trump regime was claiming what we were expected to see, right?
Yeah. So the one I want to pick up on, because it ties the two together here, is what happened to the trade deficit. Look, there's a deep question, should we care about the trade deficit? Let's put that aside. And Ben, if you want to go deeper, let's go deeper. I love going deeper. But that's what the president cares about. I don't actually care about it. But he wants tariffs because he wants to reduce the trade deficit. So we just got the trade deficit for 2025, and it is almost identical. I think it's 0.02% different from 2024. So we had this great trade war. Great. We had a trade war. And the one thing it was meant to fix, it did nothing about. Now, by the way, that might sound a little confusing to folks, but actually that bookcase behind me that's full of economics textbooks, every one of them will tell you, if you want to reduce the trade deficit, tariffs aren't the way to do it. I could have, and in fact, did tell you before the fact that this wasn't going to work. So the one thing the president was aiming for, it's clear that it failed. We all knew it would fail. So it was a bad policy aimed at something we shouldn't care about, and it didn't work.
What was interesting when we heard Bessent, when he was confronted with the potential number of refunds, 175 billion, notice that this is the one time he actually wanted to make the number less and not more. They've all been saying, and I've been saying that this is one of the biggest lies, is that tariffs have brought in trillions of dollars. We all heard Trump's speech, trillion, 17 trillion, 15 trillion, tariff shelf, this, that, the other thing. It did bring in 175 billion as a tax on the importing companies passed on to the American consumer. That's the reality. But that was the moment where he said, actually, it's a little bit less. It's more like 135 billion. And so let's talk about two things. One, just the fact that, just notice that's where he comes up with his own number. But I'm like, didn't you guys say this brought in trillions? So that's a lie as well.
Ben, what I love about that is actually, I think it's so important, because the most important skill in all of macroeconomics, and I want folks at home to really think hard about this, is It's not understanding complicated models, and it's not understanding GDP and PCI and CPI and all the ways that we can dazzle you with bullshit. The most important thing is understanding the difference between millions, billions, and trillions. And you have that skill. It's actually remarkable how few journalists do. It's very hard for folks at home to. Let me give you a very simple rule of thumb. Whenever you face a number like that, what you need to do is bring it down to scale. What does this mean per person? What does this mean relative to total income? What does this mean relative to past values? Something like that. Whenever someone is using a term in millions, billions, or trillions, they've chosen not to do that. Why is it they've chosen not to do that? Because they don't want you to understand. This is the oldest Washington trick. The way you baffle someone with bullshit is you say one of the words that happens to end in illion, and people get confused which one's which, but they're massively different. By the way, here's a simple rule of thumb for folks. $1 million is when you get a briefcase and you fill it with $100 bills. $1 billion is when you get a school bus and you fill it with briefcases. And $1 trillion is when you drive 1,000 of those school buses into your local football stadium. That's how different these numbers are. And you're absolutely right. Every time the president said the word trillion, he was lying. In fact, every time. I believe this is true. Every time he said the word trillion through the entire presidency, it's been in the service of a lie.
You know, I think about, as you said, you have all these kind of complicated economic models out there, but at the end of the day, we need to sift through bullshit. Billions, trillions, and millions. In the legal version of that, when I give legal analysis, I go, all these scholars will give you their versions of your economic models, and they have these frameworks for analysis. I'm an originalist. I'm a strict textualist. I care about states' rights. And then ultimately, they put it through whatever their framework is. And then people with agendas come out with bullshit. And then you're like, okay, you're an originalist, but now you believe in absolute immunity. Wasn't the Constitution founded on the idea of no kings? Wait a minute, you're a strict textualist, but you read away the words well-regulated militia in the Second Amendment. Well, the comma doesn't really matter. Right? In the economics field, we've seen this with this regime as we've seen it in what they've wanted their legal regime to also be. Fortunately, here, this was one area where the Supreme Court, said, oh, no, on this one thing, you can't go this far. And then the Trump regime listens to that, though, and goes, oh, but you do say that we can do embargoes against these countries. So, so now we'll use a war power to do that. And it's like, that's the lesson you've learned from this thing. And they've been handed a gift by the Supreme Court, and they're turning this gift that they got into potentially something worse.
And I think you're absolutely right, mate. And I think what's actually sort of worse than that is the president's immediate reaction was to issue, I think it's called Section 122, a 10% global across-the-board tariff. So that makes it sound to folks at home like, oh, the Supreme Court took it away, but he was able to do it another way. No. Section 122 says that you can issue a tariff of up to 15%, but it can only last for 150 days. So the president might be able to brag at night that he's reinstated his tariff regime, but he hasn't. What's more important is to understand these tariffs are a solution in search of a problem. Think about it this way. Why is it we have tariffs? Well, if it's to give the president leverage for these international deals, which has become his recent story, imagine calling up the Prime Minister of Canada and saying, well, you better do what we want or else we'll issue tariffs. Mark Carney can count to 150. Mark Carney is just going to say, I might just wait till the 150 days are over and then you'll get rid of them. So there's absolutely no leverage you get out of this. Okay, so then the president says, no, this is all about onshoring manufacturing. Okay, so the idea of onshoring manufacturing is you make it more profitable to do business in America. But this tariff that he just imposed in a fit of pique lasts for 150 days. So that means it'll be more profitable to do business in America for the next 150 days, but I won't have poured concrete on my factory till day 151. Therefore, no jobs are coming home as a result of this tariff. So then Trump's new 10% across the board tariff, what is it? There's only one thing it is. It's a tax. It's a tax on Americans. What we now have is, I don't know what to make of this. We have a pro-tax Republican president. maybe he's in favor of this tax because it's regressive, that it takes a bigger chunk out of the pay packets of the poor than it does of the rich. Maybe he thinks he can baffle us with bullshit and pretend that China's paying, but that's a story that people aren't buying. These are tremendously unpopular tariffs. And at a time where people are worried about affordability, and he said that on day one he was going to bring down prices, and instead what he did is redistributed from the poor to the rich, added tariffs, let Obamacare subsidies expire, undermined the Fed. He's done anything but address the affordability crisis.
As you mentioned, it's, I think, an undisputed fact, as we would call it in the law, in a summary judgment motion, that these tariffs are indeed regressive. But you had Kevin Hassett, National Economic Advisor, go on and say, no, it's actually, was it Kevin Hassett? It was Jameson Greer. Sometimes I confuse him. I think it was Greer who, the trade representative, said that. And then Hassett went on and confirmed that. And then Hassett went on to say, and also, we're going to be disciplining people at the New York Fed for saying that tariffs were passed on to consumers. So you had the double whammy right there. As an economist at the University of Michigan, what goes through your mind when you have someone like a Jameson Greer saying that it's not regressive, and then someone like Kevin Hassett saying, I'm going to discipline the economists, people like who could be taking your class, who have productive careers, serious individuals, colleagues of yours, people like that. I'm going to discipline them for putting together a report that accurately states facts.
You're going to discipline economists. Well, spank me, sir. I don't really have a lot to say. I think it was a new low. If Happy Kevin gets off disciplining economists, maybe we can find him the right economist for the right day. I don't know, mate.
When we last left off the interview we did before, you challenged me, but more broadly journalists in general, to not think about things in terms of fourth quarter GDP or third quarter, but think about the long-term damage that's being done in the American brand and generationally, how Trump is impacting people and impacting the world, impacting future generations. One of the things we've seen develop as this tariff regime has been an absolute disaster is the world engaging in these free trade agreements with themselves that were never really possible before, or that would run into all of these stumbling blocks that would make him take years and years and years to actually do. And we're talking about big actual trade deals, written agreements, binding stuff, not social media posts. It's just interesting. I'll get your take on it before we go, to see Canada with Prime Minister Carney as central banker, ran the Bank of Canada, ran the Bank of England, very intelligently create this trans-Pacific partnership, then a transatlantic partnership, then meet with both in order to try to unite trans-Pacific, transatlantic. And the way I've described it as, as a kid playing connect the dots, the rest of the world's kind of played connect the dots with each other, and they've drawn around the United States. And you have Donald Trump there ranting and raving, but the world's moved on. The damage has been done generationally. So I want you to talk about that before we go.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I'm going to give people more detail than they care about. There's something called the Trans-Pacific Partnership. It was the Obama administration got 3/4 of the way through it. It was an attempt to basically form a partnership in the Pacific that would keep China at bay. So it would make the United States central to Pacific region trade, Asian trade. The United States was central to that. The first thing that Trump did was stepped out of it. So we're not part of that friendship group. And basically what Prime Minister Carney has done is he's bringing the TPP countries into closer dialogue with the European Union, which is already a very, very strong trading bloc. What's really tragic here is this sort of brilliant American innovation to centralize our role in global commerce is actually going to go around us and despite us. The two sets of countries that are going to be left out are going to be China and the United States. What is this? This is the rest of the world saying there are untrustworthy, bad actors who we don't feel comfortable to get in bed with. They're China and they're the United States.
Justin Wolfers, everyone should be looking forward to your YouTube page that you're building right now. So I don't want to get ahead of what you're building, but you've posted some public things about it. So people should be starting to check in. There's a ramp up phase, but everybody go and check Justin Wolfers' YouTube page. He's growing it there. We appreciate all that you're doing, and I think it's great that you're starting your own independent media endeavor there because people need to hear more of this stuff, Justin.
Hey, Ben, I appreciate you. Look, today was an exciting day, and we just ended by talking about concerns. So can we just end each with a happy thought for the day, mate? What's your happy thought for the day?
Bubbleologists is my happy thought of the day. I brought my little one to a bubbleologist who made massive bubbles, and everybody was happy seeing those bubbles. What about?
Oh, I love that for you. That's amazing. I used to take my kids. We used to make bubbles. I can sing you the song. B is for bubbles, bubbles, bubbles. B is for bubbles. B, B, B.
Well, I made a massive blunder. You and I could have this very high level, highbrow discourse, but when they asked me, do you think a circle's going to come out of the star bubble or a circle? Got it wrong. I said star.
Thank you for that moment.
What's your happy thought before we go?
Mate, I'm going to come back to it. Tariffs are gone. Look, they're not totally gone, but we don't live in a monarchy. You do have to go through Congress. We are one step closer, one small step closer to a sane and coherent trade policy. And I can't wipe this big grin off my face, frankly. And it's not because of a dislike of the president. It's because of a love of good economic policy. It's because we've all been having this intense conversation around the country, trying to understand trade, trying to understand what's going on. And I feel like folks are getting it, and we took one step closer to a somewhat better world today.
Justin Wolfers, thanks for joining us.
Appreciate it.
Everybody hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million subscribers.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MidasPlus.com.
Who do you think you want to be today?
The hand of heaven is here. Show some respect.
If you are sitting there thinking, I should probably buy a pre-band 3D printer before things get even weirder, you are not alone. There is a genuine fear that the golden age of easy access to these 3D printers might be over. So today I'm going to walk you through exactly which pre-band 3D printers you should buy right now. Now, I'm not listing specs, I'm talking about philosophy, but in each section I'll be giving you my own personal overall pick as well. Essentially, it comes down to this. Do you want a 3D printer that is an open book? Something that you can repair, modify, and even keep running for decades? Or do you just want something that works right now out of the box with zero headaches, even if it means living inside of a walled garden? We are covering everything from budget kings to industrial workhorses. Let's start with the heavyweight in open software and hardware. If you're worried about the future, about companies going under or cloud servers getting shut down, Prusa is a safe harbor. Joseph Prusa has built a company that effectively serves as the antithesis to the black box appliance mentality that we see taking over tech. When you buy a Prusa, you aren't just buying a printer, you're buying into an ecosystem that really does respect you as the user. You get access to most of the hardware schematics and firmware source code. For many of the machines, if a part breaks 5 years from now, you can 3D print a replacement part on the machine itself or buy a standard off-the-shelf component to fix it. That is the definition of right to repair. Now, their support is one of their greatest strengths. You have 24/7 live chat, email, and a massive community that has probably already solved whatever problem that you could encounter. Price-wise, you are looking at around the $450 to $500 price range for a Prusa Mini, which is a fantastic little farm machine, by the way. And then you kind of move up through bed slingers and into the Core 1 and the XL machines at the top, with those machines being priced in the several $1,000s. My overall pick for Prusa machines would be the Core 1, which comes in at about $1,200. Now, maybe you don't have Prusa money, but you still want that open source experience. This brings us to Creality and Sovol. These brands have traditionally been the entry point for a lot of people in this hobby. Creality lately has been on a roller coaster. For years, they were the fixer-upper brand. You bought an Ender 3 and then you spent, another $200 and maybe 40 hours fixing it up. But they've really tried to turn that around with the release of the K1 and now the K2 series. They're enclosed, they're fast, and they offer multicolor options. Now, support has always been kind of Creality's weak point. Historically, it was virtually non-existent. But I have to give credit where it's due. Since Bambu Lab entered the scene, printer tech, user experience, and customer support have seen huge leaps across our industry. and Creality has really stepped up. Now, it's still mostly email and community-based, but it's miles better than it was in 2023. Now, my overall pick for Creality, it would come down to the K2 Plus combo, which comes in at about $1,300 USD, and it has a very generous build volume and, of course, multicolor. Then you have Sovol. If you want the most bang for your buck in terms of raw hardware, look at the SV08 and the SV08 Max. These are fascinating machines because Sovol basically took the open source Voron design, which is usually a complex DIY style kit, and mass produced it as a retail product. You are getting a massive high performance machine for around $500 to $1,000 for the Max. However, Sovol is a small company. The user experience is still very much that generic budget experience of the non-heavyweight brands. But for the price, getting a machine that size and capability is almost unheard of. Now, its openness is a tinker's dream, but it could be a beginner's nightmare if you aren't capable of turning a driver or a wrench. My overall pick for Sovol is going to be the SV08 regular, not the Max, which is a very large machine. It's open source roots, and it's priced around that $530 range. And since you're just getting started, you're going to need some filament. This is a 1 kilogram spool of Polymaker filament, which is my official sponsor, and they make some of the best filament in the world, and I'll have their links on the screen and in the description. And while you're at it, go grab some of this too. Element Sparkle Green, the best green that exists. Seriously, it's my spool, collector spool. Go grab it. All right, now let's address the elephant in the room. The company that completely disrupted the entire industry. If you don't care about open source and you just want an appliance that prints like a dream every single time, you buy a Bambu Lab. Now, many call Bambu Lab the Apple of 3D printers. It is a walled garden. You use their slicer, their app, their cloud, and largely their proprietary parts. But in exchange for that, you get an experience that is polished to a mirror shine. They do have an incredible library of parts for you to service your machine at extremely fair prices, but unless you are stocked up on parts, this could be an issue in that dystopian reality where this all gets banned anyway. Now, the A1 Mini and the standard A1 are without a doubt the best entry-level machines on the planet. They start at around $200 USD. Now, calling them starter machines feels really like an insult because they outperform printers that cost $1,000 just a few years ago. If you step up to the P2S or the H series of printers, you are getting enclosed Core XY machines that are fast, reliable, and support AMS. That's Bambu's multicolor system, which is currently the industry standard for ease of use. Bambu printers work online and offline, and you are in control of whether or not you do the firmware updates. So there is no worry about you waking up one morning and finding your printer freshly rebooted with the new government spyware installed. Just pay attention to the firmware updates like any system that you update. Now, my overall pick for Bambu is tough because of the sheer number of options that they offer. So I'm going to give you two. For the budget-minded, the A1 Mini is an incredible printer that you cannot go wrong. Everyone should own an A1 Mini. Now, for the higher-end crowd, I would choose an H2C. That is Bambu's flagship nozzle-changing 3D printer with incredible speed, performance, and versatility. Now, let's look at the brands trying to bridge the gap between budget and premium. Elegoo is famous for their resin printers, but their FDM machines are aggressive on pricing and print really well. The Centauri Carbon 2 is their latest push. It's an enclosed 3D printer running open source Clipper, and it comes in at a price point that makes you double take. It's around $450. The original Centauri Carbon is down to $289, if you can believe that. Is the user experience as smooth as Bambu? No. Is the support as good as Prusa? No. But you are getting 90% of the capability for 50% of that price. It is a fantastic value proposition if you have a tight budget but need an enclosed machine for printing materials like ABS or ASA. Now, my overall pick from Elegoo right now would have to be the Centauri Carbon 2, of course. It is their latest machine and comes with that multicolor option. Now, on the other end of that innovation spectrum is Snapmaker. Their U1 is catching all of the attention right now. This is a multicolor tool changer. Unlike Bambu's AMS, where it cuts and purges filament, wasting plastic, a tool changer actually swaps the entire print head. This is the prosumer choice. It's cleaner, it's faster for multi-material prints, and it produces incredible results. It's around $850, which is the upper price tier for a hobbyist printer, but cheap for a tool changer. Now, the downside? Popularity. They are back ordered. You will be waiting weeks to get one. But If you want to be on the bleeding edge of what desktop printing can do without the waste of an AMS system, then the Snapmaker U1 is the one to get. If you are leaning towards a tool changer like the U1, I'm not going to talk you out of it. In fact, I would highly recommend it. Pre-order it and wait. You won't regret it. Finally, let's talk about the heavy hitters. These are for the people who aren't printing nostalgia. They are for printing functional, load-bearing parts. Cheedy has quietly become the go-to recommendation for engineering materials on a budget. Most of their machines come with heated chambers, and that is a big deal. A heated chamber allows you to print things like nylon and polycarbonates and carbon fiber and other reinforced filaments without them warping off the bed. Now, most other enclosed 3D printers can do those filaments as well, but the heated chamber gives you a better result. They start around $400 and go up to about $1,000 USD, and they are built like tanks. The user experience is going to be the generic one. The UI isn't as pretty as Bambu Labs, but the hardware capability for that price is unmatched if you need to print those advanced materials. Now, my overall pick for Cheedy right now would be the Q2 combo. It's about $650 USD, and that comes with a chamber heater and has their multicolor system as well. And then there is Lulzbot. Full disclosure, I have an insane love for these machines. They are American-made heavy metal. Lulzbot machines are built in Fargo, North Dakota. They don't use cheap stepper motors or extruders. They use high-end, best-in-the-business industrial components. They are designed to run for thousands of hours in a print farm without stopping. They come in both standard 1.75mm filament and a massive 2.85mm filament option. And Lulzbot is a huge open source and open hardware believer. In fact, they are more open source than any other company in this industry, including Prusa. You pay for it though. You're looking at about $1,700 on the low end, up to over $9,000 on the high end. They don't have the flashy features like multicolor printing or AI detection, but what you pay for and what you get is longevity. You can also call them on the phone and actually talk to a human anytime in the US. If you are running a business and downtime costs you money, then Lulzbot is the insurance policy that you buy. Now, choosing the best Lulzbot machine is tough for me because these machines are so different. So I'm going to give you two of my picks here as well. Now, my first pick would be the Mini 3. That's this guy here on the bench. This machine is compact, it's powerful, and it's priced around $1,700, which is considerably cheaper than my second pick, the Lulzbot Taz 8, which I would upgrade to a 2.85mm Asteroid quick change toolhead, where it is priced then at about $5,800. Now, this video wouldn't be complete without mentioning Voron kits. These are DIY 3D printer kits that require a little bit more knowledge and experience in 3D printing to assemble and get working properly. I don't recommend them for beginners, but I did want to mention them here as an option, and I'll have some links in the description for those that are interested. So, where does this leave us? If you are just getting started and you want the path of least resistance, you want to unbox it and print in 15 minutes, get a Bambu Lab machine. It is the best user experience, period. But if the current geopolitical climate makes you nervous, or if you believe in the philosophy of owning your hardware, then look at Prusa, Lulzbot, or build out a Solvo SV08. Ideally, longevity in 3D printing isn't dictated by the brand that you buy. It's going to be by how open the platform is and the willingness of the community behind it. The most important thing is that you get started. The ability to turn a digital file into a physical object in your own home is a superpower. Don't let the analysis paralysis stop you. Pick the path that fits your values, grab a 3D printer, and start making something. Now, which of these pre-bend machines do you trust most to stay offline and working in 2026 and beyond? If this legislation all goes through and the bans take place, put it in the comments. Also, I'll have links to everything I mentioned in the description below. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one. Oh, and YouTube? It wants you to go watch this video. Right there. Go do it. It's a good one. I know, because I made it.
There's a new time standard for the moon. Rust versus C++ is boring. The real third option is Cherry. Your Cloud RAM might become a clever algorithmic illusion. NPM isn't ready for what's about to hit them. Imagine the best compilers end up being non-deterministic. Let's talk about what 2026 is going to look like. Now, RAM prices are getting out of control, but you're probably already aware of that if you've kind of been around trying to buy anything in the last year. But what you might not be aware of is that the actual definition that we have for RAM is about to get really complicated. Now, behind the scenes, we've had all of this quiet work in hardware, in the Linux kernel, with orchestrators, trying to change the way we allocate memory. For decades, RAM has been kind of shackled. It's not really so bad as a consumer, but it kind of creates this really irritating problem for hyperscalers. If you're trying to buy a new server, you have this fixed ratio of memory to CPU. So if you want to have a lot of memory and very little CPU usage, sorry, too bad, you're going to have a lot of really idle cores. That waste starts to add up really fast, and it's not really possible to kind of mix and match. But imagine you started treating memory more like a network fabric. So you have this big shared pool of memory that any machine can request exact amounts from. That is called Compute Express Link, or CXL for short. You've probably heard of SAS, or Software as a Service, but this one is more like MAS, or Memory as a Service. And with everything in computer science, there is going to be some trade-off. It's not going to be as fast as DRAM located really close to the CPU, but it's not incredibly slow, which is a good thing. It is different enough, however, to where the operating system does have to treat it a little bit differently. The OS needs to be kind of smart about what stuff goes where, so the hot data needs to be nearby, and then the cold data needs to be in the slower, bigger pool far away. And this is where it gets kind of funny, because there's this old computer science saying that says, those who do not know Unix are doomed to reinvent it poorly. Basically, we figured out the concept of memory tiering literally decades ago, but the Linux kernel is only just starting to catch up to all of this. In 2026, however, we're expecting this kind of perfect storm where the hardware standard is finally mature enough and the Linux kernel is finally getting better about page placement across memory tiers, and even orchestrators like Kubernetes allow you to schedule workloads based off of the kind of memory that you need. There's a lot more about this topic that I'll just never be able to cover in a single YouTube video, but if you're really interested in memory tiering, and it is a very interesting topic, feel free to follow me on X/Twitter or Blue Sky, where I have a really large series on memory tiering. Basically, to kind of summarize, the entire concept of all RAM is equal is dying, and that's not because it's wrong, it's just because it's too expensive. So my official prediction is that 65% odds that by the end of 2026, at least one major cloud provider will provide a compute offering with a tiered or burstable memory class where you explicitly pay less for CXL-backed memory. And I'm only medium confident on this because dealing with memory tiers gets a little bit complicated for customers, but I'm very confident that CXL is going to be used a lot in hyperscalers. Really, the only question here is, are they going to reveal this to users or not? All right, next prediction. One of the most difficult computer science problems is time and space. And now I'm not saying time and space, I'm saying time in space. For as long as we've been in space, NASA and other space agencies have been using Earth as the master clock for performing missions, but that's actually not how time works. 2026 is probably the year a coordinated lunar time standard is actually finalized. And it's really complicated, so let me just explain a little bit more. Because of general relativity, moon time actually runs at a different speed than Earth time. Technically, that means we need to be dealing with time scales rather than timestamps plus offsets, because the moon runs just a little bit faster than we do on Earth. So Earth runs a little bit slower because we technically sit in a deeper gravity well. So the moon runs about 56 microseconds faster than on Earth, which doesn't sound like a huge difference, but it actually makes a really large difference for computers and trying to keep synchronization. Whoa, hi geese. I'm encroaching on your territory. You have to remember that we created the definition of a second here on Earth. The international standard is based off of cesium clocks, so all of this is from our perspective of time here on Earth. But a second is going to be different here on Earth than it is a second on the moon. This is going to be a really big mess because soon we're going to have really large satellite constellations on the moon, like LunaNet for example, and we're just going to have increasingly large amounts of compute on these. It might kind of sound far-fetched right now, but can you imagine debugging a race condition where the bug is the flow of time itself? You might be wondering how NASA did it in the past with Apollo and subsequent missions. And the answer is that they cheated actually, because they had this kind of concept of smart Earth, dumb moon, where as long as you kept constant communication between Earth and the spacecraft, then every single command from mission control is basically sending the correct timestamp and kind of resetting that drift. Anyway, there's been kind of a lot of pre-work done in this, but nothing has been super officially published and standardized, which is why I give 80% odds for an official implementation strategy being published for a coordinated lunar time as an operational standard. Fun fact that NASA is supposed to have a deadline of December 31st, 2026, but I'd argue there's kind of a non-zero chance of that slipping with like the current presidential campaign and such. All right, next prediction. Wow, that's bones. Oh, I think it's a whale. Oh my gosh, whale bones. You know that whales are so loud that they can like vibrate you to death if you happen to be in the water while they're making their sounds? Pretty scary, huh? Hasn't happened though. But it could. Welcome back. Everybody likes to talk about Rust versus C++, and especially like in terms of memory safety. But I'm about to throw you a curveball here because I'm about to throw you something that could make all of this completely obsolete because all of this is actually fixed by hardware. Now, I argue that the Rust versus C++ argument is getting old, is getting boring because there's other options that nobody is currently talking about. So first, let's talk about the different levels of memory tiering. In modern C++, you can write memory safe code, but a lot of the responsibility is in the hands of the programmer still. You have to follow these good practices, and if you do that, you're going to be memory safe. Rust kind of abstracts this away from the programmer because it puts it in the hands of the compiler instead. You can think of this kind of like a wall. In the C++ version of the wall, it's like it's made out of a shower curtain or something like that. So if you do something stupid, you could trip and just fall completely through the wall because it's really not that protecting. Rust takes this one step above. It's kind of like the wall is made of glass, and you're not just going to trip and fall through the glass wall. It's going to stop you, but you could theoretically take a hammer and break through the glass wall. That would be like turning off all safety features. Cherry is something that's even one step above that. That's like the wall is made out of concrete. So no matter what you do, you can bang against the wall as much as you want. You're never going to be able to fall through it. Cherry uses this kind of idea of like capability-based addressing. Kind of long story short, instead of having your standard 64-bit pointer, you have this 128-bit capability that explicitly defines what memory the CPU is allowed to access when it's using this 128 bits. And kind of the nicest part of this is you don't have to rewrite your code for this. Let's say you have some unsafe C++ code here. All you need to do is recompile it for Cherry, and now the hardware is going to catch any of those bugs for you. Personally, I think most of the efforts right now to take existing code bases that are battle tested and such and rewrite them in modern memory safe languages is just kind of misguided, because if you think about it, modern operating systems are like 50 million lines of code. And one statistic that people like to talk about is that a regular senior software engineer can produce like 1,000 lines of safety critical bug-free code per year. So that means if you follow this kind of metric and you hired even literally thousands of engineers, this is still a decades-long project. But Lori, what about AI and stuff? Well, I have a few different problems with that, but let's just take it at face value and say you can do this. Well, there's just still so much that it is still an insurmountable problem, which is why I like so much the idea of solving this at the CPU level. And this idea is gaining more traction, which is why I give 40% odds that by the end of 2026, some mass-produced consumer device, think like IoT Hub or something like that, will ship with a Cherry-enabled processor. I really wish it was higher, but you gotta be kind of realistic over here. But there is enough experimentation in the RISC-V and ARM space that there are dev boards already available, and I do like any idea that's not just going to be take this entire code base or all of these code bases and blanket rewrite them into a different language. I think it's good to look at the hardware level solutions for this, and maybe this will inspire some of you to take a look at it. Okay, I got a really fast but terrifying prediction for you guys. So think about major package repositories. Think like NPM, PyPy for different programming languages and such. My prediction is that in 2026, there is a 70% chance that a major developer package repository has to shut down registrations for greater than 24 hours. It's kind of scary to think about, but it's just getting easier and easier to slip in completely unaudited code into these different package repositories, or even like purposefully malicious AI generated code or something like that. And it's really easy to make all of these packages look completely legitimate. You can have like huge readmes, you can have unit tests, you can have different commit histories and stuff, all making this look extremely legitimate. But some of the best, most challenging attacks are supply chain attacks, where you slip in some Trojanized code in part of like the dependency chain or in a package something is relying on. The worst part of this is this problem gets worse and worse as people start vibe coding more and more. Like put yourself in the shoes, you're trying to vibe code something right now, and you're trying to parse this particular file, and you're like, okay, I need a parsing library for this. So you ask your AI model, and it's like, okay, we're gonna use Fast Parser v2. The problem is Fast Parser v2 actually doesn't exist, at least legitimately. But there's a second part of this that's even scarier. Let's say some malicious actor knows that this is some really commonly hallucinated library, so they decide to make a version of this hallucination that is a malicious version of the library, so it's actually slipping in a backdoor or something that you're willingly installing on your system. And this is such a scary concept. It's called slop squatting, which is kind of a funny term I hadn't heard of before, but it's where malicious actors just generate a ton of these different packages in the hopes that somebody will accidentally use them. I'm really thinking the era of this kind of anonymous publication to these large package repositories is just going to start to come to an end, and we're going to have some kind of trusted developer verification to be able to push to these repositories. Otherwise, the problem's just going to keep getting worse and worse over time. Kind of reminds me of the Discord verification. Anybody see that? Where it's like the thumb, and it's got like a little face drawing on it. He's like showing it to the camera for age verification, and Discord's like, oh, we estimate your age to be 13 to 15. Now we're getting on to my personal favorite prediction, and this one's kind of complicated because it kind of gets in the weeds a little bit, but I personally think you should stick around and listen. I'm not biased at all. Anyway, imagine if in 2026 we produce compilers that have a different non-deterministic output at the highest levels of optimization. That means same source code, same compiler flags and such, but when you turn up optimization levels to the max, you might produce a different binary during every single different compilation. And if you're a developer, you're probably thinking like, oh, Lori, man, what are you on? Compiler optimizations are complicated. They're kind of like really big search spaces. So let's say you feed in some source code to GCC or LLVM. It's going to take that and look at the math or something and try to figure out optimal register allocation, for example. But the truth is, these are all actually human-created guesses based off of learned heuristics. Modern CPUs are getting so complex that branch predictors, the reorder buffer, and optimal cache allocations are basically becoming like a near superhuman problem to to solve. Really interesting fact. Under very specific circumstances, an ML model can do better inline optimizations than a deterministic math algorithm. But pause, because we need to talk here for a second. You might have heard Elon say that by the end of 2026, AI models were going to skip code completely and be writing directly in binary. And like, no, absolutely not. This is an absurd statement. I'm not saying that ML is going to be replacing the compiler at all. I'm saying that under very specific circumstances, in certain heuristics, an ML model can decide good inline optimizations. If you go over and ask an AI model, like, hey, generate me this binary from scratch, what it has to do is it has to pretty much hallucinate millions of opcodes completely correctly. And if it gets just a single byte wrong, or even like a single bit wrong, that program's gonna completely not work. But if you think of ML-guided optimization as a subset of the compilation process, as in like the decision engine, it does start to make sense. Now, Google's already done this for optimizing some binary sizes down, and it actually ended up beating humans by like 7%, which is pretty impressive. And this has been upstreamed back into LLVM back in 2021 already. But my prediction is a little bit different. My prediction is that by the end of the year, 65% odds that LLVM ML Go lists 3+ ML guided heuristics. Right now it's 2. It's inlining for size and reg-alloc eviction. If I had to guess, the next one would probably be loop unrolling, since it's like the next logical step. Because if you do loop unrolling improperly, you're just gonna kill the instruction cache with a ton of repeated instructions. But this maps nicely to models. You could use fixed seeds, and there's already quite a few papers talking about how it beats vanilla optimization level 3. I'll link those below. The tricky part is that LLVM is just such a critically important project that the maintainers are super selective about what gets accepted and upstreamed back into LLVM. Kind of the overall sentiment is only use ML solutions when they consistently beat hand-tuned heuristics with safe fallbacks. So those are my predictions for 2026. And if there's one thing that you should take away from this, is that there is a lot of exciting stuff happening still in the field of computer science. And there's a lot of doom and gloom out there, but if you take a little bit of a deeper look, you'll see that there's still a lot of cool stuff happening that nobody seems to be talking about. As always, I will link as many relevant papers as I can in the description of this video. And I'm really curious what you think. Do you disagree with me heavily? Do you have more thoughts on a particular prediction? Feel free to leave a comment below. And don't forget to subscribe if you like this kind of computer science content. As always, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, Lori Wired out. Oh, this goose is approaching me. Hi, Goose. Look at him go. He's... Hello.
Hey guys, welcome back. Please like so this video is recommended to others, and hit that subscribe button so you can keep seeing videos just like this. And I know you're wondering about the new setup. This is the new studio I've been working on for the past couple months. So here we are. This is the new setup now. And I also want to take the time to thank you guys for watching the videos, and all you guys that are members and donate to the channel. Without you guys, none of this would be possible, so thank you. Alright, on to the video. A friendly reminder to lock your doors. Wouldn't the hills have eyes, bro? Does she have a knife in her mouth? That's crazy. Oh my god, bro, she straight looked like a zombie. No. Yeah, remember to lock your doors. I don't know who still goes to sleep at night with their doors unlocked, or who has them unlocked throughout the day. You are brave if you do. A little brave and a little crazy. Might not even be human. That might be a skinwalker.
I got cut off at work, but I'll be right there.
This is painfully accurate. It really is, man. It's so accurate. It's not even funny. People bought up the entire grocery store and still nobody stayed home.
Bro, I don't know where it's coming from.
Chanting?
Genuinely, like, what is this?
It got louder, more intense. I couldn't see where it came from.
It just keeps going. What the? Oh my god!
I mean, that could be a real cult. That could be an actual real cult. FYI, if you hear chanting, don't go following the noise. Maybe walk in the other direction.
Arm. And then even Nixon, there's like hours in goddamn. You gotta go there while they're, but while I'm there, I have the tapes, but I didn't have time to like reload it. So I like duck into a place, and cause they have like all these little cabins, and like they're listening to music and partying, and I duck in, and it's like a photo of Henry Kissinger dressed as a woman, simulating sticking his fingers in his. And it's just those little things you see. And
Force Mutual Insurance. How can we help you?
Bro just casually met Alex Jones. That's crazy. GTA 5 side mission. Yeah. Damn, dude is so lucky. That would be so cool to meet Alex Jones randomly. Just the accident waiting to happen. That's a whole studio apartment. Yeah, it's Russian roulette at this point.
Hey everyone, I just wanted to quickly make this video to prove to you that we can no longer trust anything that we see with our eyes.
Damn, that's pretty good.
Images that we see on social media, we can't trust videos, we can't trust our friends, we can't trust the news, we can't trust anything or anyone. So be careful out there.
Have you guys ever watched Captured? It's a British TV show where a soldier gets framed for something that he didn't do using deepfake. And when I was watching it, this was a few years ago, I was like, damn, you know, that technology seems pretty crazy. There you go. But putting my conspiratorial hat on, I always believe that when they give something to the masses, they've probably had access to it for the last 10 years. They're only giving you access now, which then also makes me think, how many events and political events out there do you think have been faked? How many things that you've seen on the TV were being faked right in front of you? And I think we're going to reach a point where nobody trusts the internet. They want you to distrust each other. They just want to create chaos in the world. And, you know, I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist, but we've reached a point where the internet is dead. Is this person in front of you real? You're going to have to keep rubbing your eyes. Let me look at Dina's teeth. Let me look at his mouth area. That's why you have to be more rooted in real life. The point I always make to people is, you know, strengthen your ties in real life. If you're always glued to this device, you don't know if what you're looking at is real or fake.
Yeah, I would consider us pretty cooked. I don't think the internet's dead yet. I think we're gonna look back on this and think, oh, remember when we used to think the internet was dead? And the future when it's actually dead.
Remember when Appalachian hikers followed a whistle distress signal and found this? Remember when Appalachian hikers followed a whistle distress signal and found this?
Nah, I don't remember that. I don't remember that at all. This one's a new one for me, dog.
Now, both of these bottled water sat in the car overnight. This one is spring water.
All right.
You can see it's completely frozen solid.
Yeah.
Frozen. This Dasani. Not a speck of ice nowhere in the water. Can someone tell me why this has happened? This is purified. This is spring. Solid, frozen. Yeah, help me out, y'all.
I know of one liquid that don't freeze. Antifreeze. I wouldn't drink it, man. Something's wrong with that water.
This is crazy, y'all.
Hey, here's more proof.
I just want to show y'all that this is the only water left. What is the problem with Dasani? Why don't people like Dasani? It's crazy that this is the only water left.
People would rather risk dying of thirst than drink Dasani. Now, if that's not a statement, bruh. But that also brings up another question. How are they staying low? Like, how is that company surviving? If people hate it that much, I don't know how you can keep your company running. POV, you live in Hollywood and walked to a coffee shop one time and gained a stalker. How do you find out where they live? Wait, this dude's not homeless. He got different fits. Wait, is he homeless? Yeah, he got different fits, bro. Oh, that's creepy. Oh my god. Damn, we looking for keys now. Oh, never mind. Dude said this is mine now. And the LAPD tells you just get a dog. I have a restraining order now. Wow. They said get a dog, bro. It's not our problem until he unalives you. That's crazy. The system is broken.
Imagine owning an Escalade, access to money, power, Google search, and you take it upon yourself during an ice storm apocalypse to fill two storage bins full of gasoline.
Damn, bro, I
Baby,
thought it was
those
pee.
storage bins are for your Christmas decorations that you should have put away last month, not unleaded. What do you imagine doing with those? You gonna just trap fumes with a lid and store it in your garage? They're just gonna eat through that plastic like a snack, baby. You're supposed to be purchasing snacks, Doritos, Chips Ahoy cookies, Tostito pizzas. That's what you're supposed to be purchasing, not 2 storage bins of gasoline. And then what? It's gonna catch on fire? Because our emergency personnel are taking care of exploding trees, not exploding garages. Your Escalade is about to be a $90,000 scented Yankee Candle is what's about to happen. Stay safe out there.
I'm pretty sure this is illegal too. That's crazy, man. I wonder if she even made it home. I just know that gas started eating through that plastic container. There's no way she made it home.
All right, so if y'all never seen Final Destination, that car on the back of that trailer just hit a bump and that shit just jumped like off, like it's about to fall off the trailer. I ain't getting behind the Joker, but I mean, I'm gonna come up on the side of him like, actually, I'm about to just ride by. That hit one more bump, that shit going down. That joint is crazy. Yo, that's crazy.
Damn, that eye is totaled, bro. How'd that truck driver not notice? That's crazy. Like, for real, how are you not paranoid constantly checking your rear view? He's right though, one more bump and that thing's coming clean right off.
Someone is playing the piano.
Huh? Kitty cat?
Someone is playing the
Yo,
piano.
why is he actually good? Oh, my guy was getting into a rhythm. She should have let him finish. The dogs are listening like they're getting over a heartbreak.
Did you guys see this? So Congress just determined that every new car going forward has to include a kill switch, which gives them the ability to turn off your car if they so choose, that you are in a state of emergency. Really interesting. This is so Orwellian that Orwell himself would not believe it, and we need to start being very honest with each other as citizens of the United States. Our government, Congress, does not represent the voice or the will of the people, which was supposed to be their job originally. And if we do not fundamentally change the way our government behaves, we are forever lost as citizens because they're all bought and paid for, and they do not care about us.
Wow, 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 wow. You know, I saw a video the other day where they were basically explaining the way our world works right now, and it made so much sense. I just can't remember what the word was. They used some word that meant that basically our country is ruled by rich people, that we don't really have a democracy. Plutocracy, here we go. Okay, plutocracy, a country or society governed by the wealthy, an elite or ruling class of people whose power derives from their wealth. A society that basically just benefits the rich, so like billionaires and politicians and Congress and lizard people and aliens and the Illuminati.
Can I help you?
No. You all good. I'm trying to make sure she all good.
I'm good.
No. I guess she is managed. She wants to talk to her. That's it.
Then you can go over there.
Okay.
What the hell, bro?
Alyssa, it's not funny. Get inside.
I know. Look at the fucking room.
Dang, bro picked the wrong one today. Yo, she was not having it. That dude was geeked out though. He did not have any good intentions, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, it's raining rocks. I don't think that's a liquid. Is this what snow is?
What?
Partly cloudy with a chance of rock. Oh, bruh.
What is actually happening here? What? Get inside, my guy. Volcano, January 24th, 2026. The Hawaiian Volcano Observatory reports that episode 41 of the ongoing Kelu Summit eruption officially commenced this morning. It really is raining rocks. Damn, bro. Is this not dangerous? You won't get a concussion, my guy. I hope this ain't real. 8 million burgers a day ain't coming from cows. You know, I used to think that was a crazy statement, and now I'm realizing that the math ain't mathing. It wouldn't surprise me if fast food meat was actually this. It's actually not that crazy, to be honest.
I was getting my things together to get off the train, and the door closed at the last stop, which is my stop, but, oh, they're turning off the lights. I have no idea where I'm going. It just kept going. Oh, this is terrible.
Oh.
Oh my god. I was getting my things together to get off the train.
Oh my goodness, bro.
And, the door closed at the last stop, which is my stop, but, oh, they're turning off the lights. I have no idea where I'm going. It just kept going. Oh, this is terrible. Oh my god.
The genuine fear in his eyes. If he can post this, he can call 911. I tried it. They shot me. Thanks, Aaron. Oh my god. Hopefully you make it home. Best of luck to you, my guy. Thoughts and prayers.
Mark my words, the next big war in our lifetime is going to be over water. And if you think otherwise, feel me, you're not paying attention. Mark my words, the next big war in our lifetime is going to be over water. And if you think otherwise, feel me, you're not paying attention.
I believe this man. And all this just so we can make videos of cats dancing. Yay.
Okay, you might not believe what Mr. Beast just promoted. After promoting Neuralink a few days ago, the brain implantable microchip, he is on a roll, and I don't know if it's a good one. So, in his latest YouTube video, Mr. Beast goes to a freaking gigantic factory and starts hyping up and promoting lab-grown chicken, totally synthetic, fake chicken, which he says is going to be the future of food, and how great it is that no chickens were harmed and we got to eat all this lovely, yummy, freaking factory chemical food. Now, I'm sure it's so safe and super good for you, wink wink, but is it not shocking that after Mr. Beast just recently partnered with the Rockefeller Foundation for Philanthropy and woo-woo-woo, and in the video where he announces his merging and partnering with Rockefeller, he happens to do the double devil horns. Like, you can't make this up. Of course, sometimes people accidentally put their hands in funny positions. This does seem intentional, of course. So he goes to Upside Foods, this startup company, woo! He eats it and says how great it is. And keep in mind, dude, if Mr. Beast promotes something, it's going to be based on a business agreement. This isn't some willy-nilly thing. Of course, he goes there to promote not just a new company that's coming up, but one that is promoting lab-grown food to bajillions of people, because, you know, he gets insane views. Let me know your thoughts. Do you think it's great to promote brain implantable microchips and lab-grown meat? Because last I thought, I'm pretty sure there's a plan to make all of that happen widespreadly. The thing I will say, like, people will think this is good if you're vegan, right? And it all started with veganism when they were promoting fake cheeses that was made of soy isolates, or in some cases there was plastic to be found in it, just like how there was yoga mat chemicals in the Subway food. Subway bread had a chemical in it that was azo dicarbide or whatever, which is the chemical that makes yoga mats squishy. But anyways, my point is that I think we need to really seriously focus on making our food supplies great again, and that's not a pun intended, like make America great again, but I'm just saying, they were great a long time ago when it was all organic. Let's go back to that. What do you say? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below and follow for more.
Yeah, man, I'm telling you, it has nothing to do with animal cruelty, nothing to do with the animals. They're using somebody like Mr. Beast to make it look cool. Other than this probably not being really good for you, that maybe it's actually terrible. Wouldn't this be the perfect way to have complete control over the food supply? Don't nobody have chickens, Daddy. Nobody has cows, nobody has nothing. You get nothing. You gotta buy it from them.
Life does not. Oh my God.
Somebody touched me right here. I'm not even joking.
Life does not. Oh my God.
Somebody touched me right here. I'm not even joking.
Maybe she had beans for lunch. Who knows, maybe? It's the ghost pranking her. It was them haunted beans.
Y'all seen these right here yet? Looks like a dragon maybe embedded in the rock, maybe something petrified. Anyways, there's a lot, there's a lot of big stuff. Just watch the video and follow this guy.
Are these petrified giants?
Okay, I'll let him know.
That one's kind of gross. Some of those were a little too accurate. Like maybe they were statues at one point. Maybe somebody designed them.
Plainfield, Illinois front and back porch lights were flashing SOS. I called 911 twice. Officers said they checked but didn't see or hear anything and wouldn't go back. 20 minutes later, the lights still flashing, and it sounded like someone was calling for help. Stay safe and alert.
Wait, that could be SOS. It's probably a Morse code. And there's another light on the other side. Damn, what's the backstory here? Tonight in Plainfield, Illinois, I saw something that has been bothering me. I was driving past the boarded up house and noticed both the front and back porch lights were flashing like a signal, not a power flicker. They were purposely turning on and off over and over. It immediately reminded me of Morse code or a silent distress signal if someone was trapped inside. That could be their way to communicate. I called 911 right away and stayed nearby until police arrived. Damn. They pulled up across the street in what looked like a truck stop area. From where I was parked, it didn't look like they got out of their car. After waiting about 10 minutes, I left thinking they were going, damn, that might actually be somebody in there that's being held hostage or something. That's creepy. That's creepy for sure, bruh. I hope they actually checked it. That really could be somebody.
Showing you all proof that an actual robotic chicken begged me to stop eating meat today because nobody would believe.
What the hell? A robot chicken. Nice. They want us to eat that 3D printed meat, bro. It's so they can control the food supply even more.
Oh, wow. So now there's a new virus on the loose that has a 75% death rate, worse than COVID, and no cure. And guess where it comes from? India. Yeah, lock it down. And yes, the virus is coming from bats. Again, you see in India, they hang pots from trees to collect the sap from the tree to make a delicacy. The bats are peeing, pooping, and leaving saliva in the pots. And when consumed, humans are getting it. So now some countries are moving like COVID again, doing temperature checks, swabs, trying to make sure people don't have it before they get on their flights. Personally, nobody would be getting on their flights from anywhere if you came from that area. If your ticket shows you came from there, yeah, you sitting right here, buddy. Luckily, the CDC and WHO claims that it's at low risk right now and that nobody from the US seems to have it, which is perfect for us. So let's keep it that way. Let's stop hanging pots from trees, you know, and until this situation is handled. Please and thank you, because I'm not going through another lockdown. I almost ain't making through the last one, bro.
That's kind of concerning. After reading this comment, it's really concerning. I didn't even think about it that way. If Indian immune system can't handle this, then who the F are we? All right, everybody chill. Everybody stay where they are. Nobody move. Don't travel. Don't do anything right now. We can't screw up 2026. Not yet. It's already screwy, but we can't screw it up even more.
What in the world do we think happened here? This place is for sale right now in Monroe, Michigan for under $100,000, which is unheard of in this day and age. And it's actually cute on the outside, but the price makes a lot more sense when you see the inside. So many of you sent me this listing for my Zillow series, and I'm really disappointed that despite all of my research, I could not figure out what happened in this house. Some people were speculating that it could have been a foreclosure, saying that sometimes people will trash a house when they find out that the bank is taking it over. Sometimes, if that's the case, the home is listed as a foreclosure instead of just saying that it's for sale. But in the state of Michigan, they have no legal obligation to tell you that the home is a foreclosure, as long as they're showing pictures that accurately represent the state of the house. I think what's even more concerning is that there's evidence that children lived in this house. And if a foreclosure is the case, it seems like the parents gave their children a bucket full of red paint and red markers and told them to go crazy on the walls. At least I can hope that it didn't look this way while they were living there.
Let's say it was that they gave them some paint and said go crazy. They made some beautiful art. That real estate agent has some nerve posting those pictures. They could have at least painted over that. Come on, man.
Oh, I found a glitched person. Just wait. They look like they're running, right? They're not. They're staying in place. They've been there for like 2 minutes.
Where's Oz at?
What?
They gotta restart their simulation. Their game's not loading. You're supposed to ignore that. I'd like to imagine that they got up to go pee and the wig stayed in place. She was raptured. The wig didn't do enough good deeds. It didn't make it in.
After this, they drove off immediately. A group of friends heard a tale that a woman can be seen swinging on a swing late at night in the middle of nowhere in Corpus, Texas. So they go there and capture something chilling.
Are you having fun? Yeah?
Why? Are you real?
Are you real?
I can't leave beyond this bed.
Bro,
Yes, you can.
am I talking to a person right now? Please tell me
We're
I'm
all seeing the same thing, bro.
Are you alive or,
Just say, like, have a good night.
Okay, have a good night.
Oh, what the f?
Someone or something can be seen swinging repeatedly. When asked if she is real, she doesn't answer and says to the group that she can't leave beyond the fence. Then suddenly something unseen hits the fence and a growl is heard, leaving the group freaked out.
Alright, bro, if you say so. Ain't nobody talking to no ghost. Well guys, that's all I have today. Thanks for hanging out with me again. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, you're awesome and I appreciate you. And with that, I'll see you in the next video.
Hello, peeping Toms and Tomettes. Hello, peeping Toms and Tinas. I want to thank you for pausing your body cam footage, whatever police brutality shit you were staying up watching late while high, to tune into your favorite surveillance state host. It's me, your resident eyes here, Palantir. We're monitoring your heart rate. We're following your little cousin going to school. We're going to put him in a bag because he said some things about the government that we don't quite like. Welcome everyone to another episode of The Company Law. Yeah, that's right. Now, ladies and gentlemen, today's video is all about doom. And I'm going to teach you all how to stop dooming. I'm going to teach you all to love everything you're hearing in the news. Children are being eaten. That's a good thing. Children are being eaten. That's a good thing, mate. That's wonderful. People's body parts are being put in a stew. That's wonderful for us.